We've got a beautiful three-game Thanksgiving Day NFL slate, and in this video, I'm going to cover all three games, all the betting angles, all the news and notes right here, right now. Let's go. All right, I'm looking at Novig Sportsbook right now. If you check this out to play straight bets, I don't blame you. And if you do, use code DONUTS, DONUTS. We've got the Packers on the road against the Lions, a very close spread of 2.5 points. Chiefs on the road against the Cowboys, giving 3.5 on the road against the Cowboys. It looked different since the bye week. And then the Bengals on the road against the Ravens. One of the fishiest lines I've seen all year. I can't wait to talk about it. Now, this is Underdog. This is a great spot to do pick 'em. If you're looking at player props and you want to check them out, use code DONUTS over here as well, DONUTS. And we're going to use Underdog and Novig today to cover both the game betting and the prop betting. But really quick, before we advance into week 13 and dive into these games, and by the way, I did leave it off. I am going to touch on it a little bit at the end of this video. On Friday, we have a game between the Bears and the Eagles. Bears on the road getting 6.5 points. That's at 3 p.m. on Friday. We get some Black Friday football to mix in with a little of that shopping, my friends. Now, before we get to these games, though, quick review. Looking at last week, my picks went 3-2, player props went 2-1, and the game picks went 1-1. We ended up going 6-4 overall with the models and my picks for 1.23 units profit. And you can't go broke making a profit, my friends. That is now locked in profit in 10 out of the 12 NFL weeks. It has been a banner NFL season. Get that VIP link down below if you want the officials. Remember, here on YouTube, I try to point you in the right direction, try to give you a lot of insight and information so that you can make informed decisions. And of course, I sprinkle in some picks and some parlays. Speaking of, 9 a.m. Thanksgiving morning, I will be live here on YouTube for a full degenerate hour building up parlays right here on YouTube. All right, so let's get to this first game. Packers on the road against the Lions. Now, my initial gut feel when I look at this game is to lock in that Lions money line at -143 or to take the 2.5 points there. -2.5 at home against the Packers? Listen, the Packers are a good football team, but they're not as great or elite as we thought they were after the first week or two of the NFL season. They made that trade for Micah Parsons, and their Super Bowl betting odds went from like plus 2,500 all the way down to plus 1,000 on some sports books. Now, that has definitely evened out quite a bit since then. The Lions, on the other hand, won an overtime game against the Giants. Jameis Winston, career revival happening this season. It's wonderful to see. We all love it. Who doesn't like watching Jameis sling the football and give top-notch interviews? Now, the Lions are at home in this one, though, on a short week, a very tough spot, really, truly, to travel for the Packers, traveling into Detroit, a divisional foe. And the Lions are 7-4 right now. They are clearly not as good as they were last year, but there's clearly still a better football team, in my opinion. Emmanuel Wilson did okay last week for, Josh Jacobs, ran for 107 yards, had 2 rushing touchdowns. He played the part. Now, what's going to be tough about this one, and we won't know until later today, that's Tuesday, by the way, depending on when you watch this video, will Josh Jacobs be practicing at all? So on Monday, on a short week, teams are required to give out an estimate of their practice participation level. So on Monday, while the Packers did not practice, they estimated that Josh Jacobs would have been limited. How weird is that? What a weird NFL rule. Here's another one. Anybody with a concussion has to practice on Tuesday today to be able to play in Thursday's game or Wednesday's practice for the Bears and the Eagles, because you need 48 hours, 2 days of practice prior to game day. And there's only 2 days of practices, Tuesday and Wednesday, in order to clear the final hurdle for the NFL concussion rules. But I digress. When I look at this game, I only am looking at one thing, and that's the home team, the Detroit Lions on Thanksgiving. The Lions broke a 7-game Thanksgiving Day losing streak last year, and I think they run it back this year against these Packers. I am taking the Lions -143 money line. I don't mind the -2.5. There are tons of player props to look at here as well. And I also need to state this, because we have this game and the odds that we do on it, One of these two teams will end up being an official pick by the 10,000 simulations model. The model simulates every game 10,000 times. We give those picks and the player props out to members. Now, that's exactly what has essentially gone into the reason why we're up and profitable in 10 of the 12 weeks this season for NFL. I don't know what the model says yet. We haven't run it. It's early Tuesday morning, recording at like 8 a.m. That model pick, that'll be inside Discord for this game. We'll give out the side, the total, the money line, and any player props that hit the official bet grade of A minus, A plus. My tummy tingles and gut feels like the Lions at home to win this one and to cover the 2.5 points. If you want to bet with me, again, code DONUTS, DONUTS on Novig. Let's head over to Underdog, take a look at this game. There are a couple spots here. So Brock Wright's essentially going to be the guy out there. And here's the issue. Now, in his first start here for Sammy Laporta, he did okay. He had 4 targets, 3 catches, 29, and then missed the walkthrough yesterday. So what are you getting out of Brock Wright this week? Who the heck knows? I wanted to bring that up because I was already talking about the injury issues. So let's start from the top down. Of course, we got to go right to the joystick here. Jahmyr Gibbs. Seems like every other week he goes nuclear and then takes a massive step back. 17 touches for 136, I should say carries, 9 for 25, 15 for 142, 12 for 39, 15 for 219. We all watch these highlights left and right. He's had 3 touchdowns, none. 3 touchdowns, none. 2 touchdowns. And if you go back and you look at the entire season, it's essentially been like this all year. It's very bizarre. It's almost like teams the week after these huge explosions scheme ways to keep him from popping off against them. And then the Lions just give up. They just give up on their game plan and just start throwing the football. It's very weird. And you go back and it's happened all year. I'm not even kidding. 94 yards, then 67, 91, then 54, 136, 25. I mean, it's just up and down, up and down. Now it gets even worse for Jahmyr Gibbs. And I'm painting a picture here for a reason, so hang tight. 5 career games against the Packers as a Detroit Lions running back, sharing time with, David Montgomery at times, more so in the beginning. Over the last 3 games, he's had over 65% snap rate in all 3 games against the Packers. And that includes earlier this year against the Packers when he had a 66% snap rate and only had 19 yards rushing. And that was on 9 carries. And yes, that was the season opener. Well, since then, the Packers defense has actually been pretty good against the run this year. But it's not like running backs haven't hit the over for their rushing yards props, but they rarely have gone nuclear. In fact, the only 100-yard rusher this season is Rico Dowdle, who had 130 against them on November 2nd a few weeks back. But they've held every single other running back under the century mark. Now, does that matter too much for Jahmyr Gibbs? Not really. I guess if you're looking at doing a ladder for his rushing yards, but his yards is at just 71.5, which just feels low. And his rush attempt at 14.5, his total yards at 107, longest reception, longest rush, first quarter rushing yards. There's a lot to break down here, so let me do it for you. The first one I want to look at is actually the 14.5, and grabbing one of these alternate projections here at 14.5 rather than 19.5, first quarter 0.78 multiplier, and looking at using this in another play. On the season, Jahmyr Gibbs has always been pretty good in the first quarter. He's averaged 5 carries per game in the first. They essentially try to start every game setting up the game on the ground to allow for play action as the game goes. And because of that, he's had 15 plus yards, 15 or more in 9 of the 11 games. Now, if you don't have access to this projection market, I would suggest that the next best play is to look at the rushing and receiving. So on the season, 107.5 has actually been quite tricky. As a matter of fact, he's only really been hitting it lately. 4 out of the last 5 games, he's gone bonkers in yardage. He had 218 against Tampa. Against Minnesota, he only had 28. Against Washington, 172. 146 against Philly. 264 against the Giants. And now we're on a short week. Now here it is. I'm using MySperryEdge.com. You can see it. He's just going nuclear. And by the way, check this out. So last year, here's the playoffs. And then here's the regular season. Look how he closed out the year. It's almost as if as these games got more and more important, they started to just say, hey, sorry, David Montgomery, we appreciate you immensely, but we got to give our alpha in the backfield more opportunity. We also saw David Montgomery hurt towards the end of the season. Now, we don't have that right now, but still, even still, we clearly saw a bigger workload and a higher snap rate at the end of the season. And don't look now, that's happened in back-to-back weeks, 64% and 75% for Jahmyr Gibbs snap rates over the last 2 weeks, and the yardage is coming. So I think, honestly, the 107.5 is a really interesting play for this game. And hey, if you wanted to alt that at 99.5 and pair that with something else, by all means, you can do that as well. This has been a pretty solid number all year at 100 plus. But truly, it's 8 yards, man. It's Jahmyr Gibbs. Give me the full projection line. Let's roll with that one is my favorite for him. Now, David Montgomery, 38.5 rushing yards. Man, there was a time in the season when I would have said this is a lock and load. But again, the snap rates are going down for Montgomery. He's actually been under 40% snap rate in 8 of the 11 games this season. The lack of opportunity continues to show its ugly head here at the end of the season in important games. And this could not be a more important game for the NFC North battle. It's an absolute showdown. The Packers and the Lions both need this win as they are jockeying for position with the Chicago Bears, who face the Eagles on Friday. Conceivably, the winner of this game could be at the top of the NFC North standings at the end of this game. I don't think we see much of Montgomery in this one. I just don't. He's been under in 6 of 11 games. Again, I just think that his spot this week, it's not a Montgomery game in a matchup here, a tough matchup where they're going to need that explosive Jahmyr Gibbs upside. Amon-Ra St. Brown, another interesting play. These Detroit players are always fun to look at. Amon-Ra St. Brown, another guy who's actually struggled throughout his career against Green Bay. In fact, I went back a few seasons here with Goff under center, and he's gone under 7.5 receptions, which is his projection this week, in 7 of the 9 games. And because of that, the yardage has gone under, and not even like close. He's been under 56, or I should say 56 or lower in 7 of 9 games. Now, Amon-Ra St. Brown, an elite level talent who's been balling out in these recently close games as well, in these important games. But boy, oh boy, and the target share is insane. 10, 13, 8, 12, 13. That's great volume. But man, the Packers have truly had his number, and nothing changed in week 1 this year, where Amon-Ra St. Brown had 5 targets, 3 catches for 18 yards. Now, I am certainly not looking to put together like a 6 or 7 leg entry for this one game. I'm just trying to highlight all my favorite angles for every single player throughout this entire video. So do me a favor. Number 1, like this video and subscribe to the channel if you're new, my friends. I am going to do this for all 4 NFL games in this video. Now, if you really want to get into the nitty gritty, that is what the Thursday live show will be, 9 a.m. Eastern, right here on YouTube. I'll be doing the Degenerate Hour for the Thanksgiving NFL slate. Come back for that. That's going to be a lot of fun. Hopefully I see you back on Thursday. So like this video, and then number 2, set your alarm for Thursday morning, 9 a.m. And I'll continue to hammer out some hopeful W's for you. Jameson Williams. Now, here's the deal. Somebody's got to move the football through the air. They've got no Laporta, and maybe that's the one hang up I have about or taking the under on Amon-Ra St. Brown. Somebody's got to move the ball down the field. Now, we've had 2 games this season that we've seen Jameson Williams have absolute duds for. 2 targets, 0 catches against Tampa, 3 targets, 0 catches against the Giants. Now, I expect him to get back in the production column in this one because of all the attention that Amon-Ra St. Brown garners. I mean, the entire defense needs to pay attention to where he is at all times. And then JMO can get over the top. So I don't care really what angle it is. Long reception, 50.5 yards. I think if you're playing the correlation of one of these here, you rock an over for one of these. What I mean by that is this. If Amon-Ra St. goes lower, if Jameson Williams goes higher, Dave Montgomery goes lower on his yards, and then, Gibbs goes higher, there's correlation, right? I mean, if Gibbs is eating, there's only one football and one running back position, then Montgomery is not. And vice versa. If Amon-Ra St. Brown is struggling, somebody's got to catch it. Hopefully, as long as the Lions are competitive, J-Mo's the guy that steps up. Now, what does that do for Jared Goff this week? Now, Goff has a tough matchup here. Quarterbacks have struggled against the Packers all year. Only 3 have hit the over on their passing yards mark. That 238.5 seems like a very high line, in my opinion. Now, the one thing he does have going for him is he is at home, and at home over the last couple of years, he's been a much better quarterback. I'm not even kidding. You can look at virtually every single split for Jared Goff, and his home stats are so much better. At home this year, he's hit the over in 4 of 5 games. Last season, he averaged 285 yards at home through the air versus just 260 on the road. And hey, by the way, this season, not much different. 243 on the road, 261 on his home turf. So, how do we do this? What do we do here? To be honest, I have no clue. None. So I'm staying away. Sometimes I just don't know. At least I don't know yet. Now, I took my sweet time on the Lions side of things because the Packers, they're chaotic. They're a mess. I never know what to do with them. So I'm going to try my best. But, buckle up. I'm honestly about to breeze through this. It's been a season of Jekyll and Hyde for Jordan Love. His passing yards, volatile as can be. He's cleared this 5 times. All 5 times he went bonkers. 260, 270, 360, 330, 290. And then the other 6 unders, 180, 180, 180, 170, 170, 140. So good luck. Good luck with this one. I think on a short week on the road, I lean towards lower for Jordan Love, maybe some inefficient football. And if we're talking inefficiency, maybe I shouldn't be looking at the passing yards. I should just be looking at completions as I'm thinking about it aloud for the first time here. He's been at 19 or fewer in 7 of the 11 games. He had just 16 against Detroit in week 1. Romeo Doubs and the rest of the Packers continue to just drop the football. Boy, oh boy, to be a Packers fan would be extremely frustrating. I feel like they started this season with like 4 or 5 wide receivers who they just felt so excited about. Doubs, Reed, Watson, Golden, Dontavian Wicks. I mean, 5 wide receivers, all seemingly exciting, and then literally just a bevy of inconsistent wide receivers. And make no mistake, that is Romeo Doubs in a nutshell. If you're looking at anything from him, it would be the long reception. Otherwise, I'm moving on. Again, I told you, I'm not going to spend too much time on these Packers. I just don't bet on them. Some teams, some players, I think are just so difficult. Christian Watson, if there's any play, so we need one on the Packers side. Here's what it would be. Just to grab that lower projection of 39.5 to run that out, because on the season, well, he's played 5 games and he's had 40 plus in all 5. The targets have been solid, 4, 4, 5, and 7. And when you're getting 4 to 7 targets, I mean, hopefully 40 plus yards is solid for Christian Watson. I think it is in this spot as well. His receptions market's at 3.5 this week, which tells you a lot about his upside. Other than that, Brandon McManus is the last player we can even bother looking at. And I'm going to tell you right now, pass. I'm not looking at a kicker. Let's move on to the next game. Very exciting. Kansas City Chiefs on the road against the Cowboys. Now, here's the deal, my friends. The Cowboys, they had that week 9 bye. They came out in week 10 it was, week 11 and week 12 came out, win and win. Their defenses looked better. Their offense looks the same. Explosive. Scores in bunches. Now they're at home against the Chiefs, who just had a huge win for themselves against the Colts. 3-point victory, 23-20 win. Cowboys, same thing. Big come from behind, down 21-0. I believe it was 21-0 as the Eagles. They came out with the win. Now, I think this is a very tough spot here. So you've got 2 teams with their backs against the wall. Literally, both teams need to essentially win out to keep their playoff hopes alive. There's such small room for mistakes. So a small margin of error here will be permitted for either team to have a chance at the playoffs. It's like 20% or whatever per the NFL, percentage thing they run through Amazon. Next gen stats, I can't remember what it was. I saw this the other day. You need a win. Both teams need a win. I don't know who I choose for the win here. And I don't like the odds for the Chiefs at minus 173. I do like the odds for the Cowboys, but I don't know if I like them outright. I do like them to cover the plus 3.5. Now, again, I'm not the simulation model. I am not going to pick my tummy tingles and gut feels over the 10,000 simulation model for the game. The game that has just been too good. It's better than what my bias can decide for. Player prop wise, I love myself. I'm going to roll with my props that I like. But betting on NFL games is way better than betting on NFL props, and vice versa, by the way, for NBA. And NBA props is way better than NBA games. So I lean towards the model in this one. So whatever the model says when it comes out Tuesday afternoon, Tuesday night for members, VIP link down below, that's going to be the official. For me, when I look at this game, I'm like, Cowboys cover at home in a close one. They're a much better team. than they were 3 weeks ago prior to the break after trading for multiple players, a linebacker, Quentin Williams at D-line, getting a bunch of their Overshawn coming back from injury, a couple D-backs coming back healthy. They're a different team. So I personally like the Cowboys plus 3.5. Okay, hear me out. Javonte Williams has been free in the first quarter. I covered this every single week for VIPs. You're getting it here on YouTube, you lucky dogs. He had another 5 carries in the first half here, my friends. Another 5 carries this past week. And what do you know? He had another 29 yards rushing. Javonte Williams, for 7 straight weeks, has had 20-plus rushing yards in the first quarter. On the season, he's hit the over in 9 of 11, averaging 26 yards per game. The defenses do not matter. It just doesn't. He had 20 against Denver. He had 29 against Philly, 33 against Philly earlier, 60 against Chicago. Some decent teams here. They try to set up that deep play action so CeeDee Lamb can drop those passes, just can't hold on to the football. And Javonte Williams, he starts off these games hot, and the Cowboys usually end up giving up a score or two and then abandon the run, and he only ends up with 15 carries. Dak slings it 35 times, 20 of them being 20-plus yard pass attempts. But I digress. Javonte Williams, good spot because it's the first quarter. Now, this past week 12, I showed it on the Sunday morning live show. Again, another reason why you should show up for those degenerate live shows, because I highlight a bunch of really interesting stuff. And one of them I highlighted this past week wasn't even his rushing yards. It was rush attempts. His 4+, that's right, over 3.5 rush attempts in the first quarter, I believe was like minus 140. And I was like, y'all lock this in. Just lock it in right now. He had only missed that line one time the entire NFL season. If that line is available again for Thursday, when the first quarter markets open up on sports books, I am locking 4+ rush attempts in once again. Now, on Underdog, again, 15.5 first quarter rushing yards, plug and play. If he misses, he misses. It is what it is. But if you're going to give him 5 carries, I think he can get me 16 yards for the 10th time in 12 games, in the 8th one in a row. And he's faced tougher run defenses. Now, CeeDee Lamb, all the opportunity in the world. Is he going to fix this drop issue he's got going on? Dropped another 3 after dropping multiple in the prior week against Vegas. Had a couple drops against the Cardinals. Some marquee primetime huge spot drops too, including a touchdown against Philly. We needed one more catch. He dropped 3 passes when we needed 1 catch to cash out a plus 400 parlay I had built for members for this game. And he finished with 4 after dropping his final 3 targets. You can't have a worse beat than that, my friends. Good luck telling me about it. Now, I don't know what to do. I just don't at this point. It's CeeDee Lamb. We're 2 years removed from him finishing just 50 yards behind Tyreek Hill for the NFL leader in wide receivers. He finished 1,749 yards receiving that year. Then last year, Dak Prescott gets hurt. Cooper Rush did feed CeeDee Lamb the football a little bit, but still, Dak Prescott, Cooper Rush. So CeeDee had an off year based on the injuries to Dak. This year, CeeDee has been injured a lot of the season, and now he's back and playing inconsistently. I don't know what to bet on him for anymore. On the season, he's averaging 79 yards receiving. At 75.5, he's actually only hit the over in 4 of those games. His long receptions, probably my favorite angle. He still continues to cash that like, whoa. We've got 15, hear me out, 15 healthy games with Dak and CeeDee together in 2024 and 2025. 15 games. Okay, that's Dak as a starter and finishing the game. That's CeeDee as a starter and finishing the first quarter. That's all I'm looking for. 15 times that's occurred. He's had a 25+ yard catch in 13 of those 15 games. And despite the drops last week, he still had a 48-yard catch. And he would have had another 30-yard catch that he had dropped as well. So I like this play once again. But boy, oh boy, does George Pickens look like the better wide receiver right now in the midst of a career season. 6 straight games for the Cowboys he's had. 168, 82, 78, 79, 144, and 146. And the target volume is honestly what makes me the happiest. He's averaging almost 10 targets per game over those 6 games, many of them with and alongside CeeDee Lamb. Matter of fact, the last 5 with CeeDee, he's actually had the best 5-game stretch he's had with the team. Last 5 games, he's averaging 7 catches and over 100 yards for wide receiving. I ultimately think he's in an interesting spot. Let me remove some of these targets here for the Lions so I can fill out all the player props that I like for this specific game. Let's go take a look at Jake Ferguson up next. You're the next contestant, my friend. Jake's pretty much been inconsistent most of the year. Don't know what you're going to get from him. Started off incredibly hot and then has really cooled down. I can't bet on him anymore. We've got better options in this game. Brandon Aubrey at 8.5 points. Again, I do not talk about kickers on these shows. I just don't. They're hard to bet on for me. I like his kicking points. His field goals 2+ this week. I don't like the kicking points. I never know what you're getting from him. Let's go look at the Chiefs side. This is a little bit easier for me, in my opinion. Xavier Worthy, one of the most interesting wide receivers in the NFL, in my opinion. You feel like he can explode every single week when you watch him make some of these plays and catches, and he's getting the opportunity. 7, 5, and 8 targets, but boy, oh boy, he does not do much with them. So I do not bet on him anymore. I'm over it. Rashee Rice, on the other hand, lock and load opportunities. 10, 9, 7, 9, 12 targets. And this is another spot right here. You see him against Indy. Huge must-win scenario here for him. And yeah, I expect him to have his way with the Cowboys. The 6.5 receptions is fine, but honestly, I would take the receiving yards if you're going to make me pick one. You know, what's actually been really interesting too is this first quarter receiving yards. This season, he's averaging 3 targets in the first quarter and almost 3 catches in the first quarter for 20 yards in the first quarter. My guy gets fed in the first quarter of these football games. They like to get him the football early and often. So I think that's actually a really unique spot. And hey, by the way, I mean, first quarter parlay, maybe running the receiving yards out there with the rushing yards from Jahmyr Gibbs and Javonte Williams. Oh my gosh, I just built a W. Pacheco, I can't bet on. Kareem Hunt, I never know what I'm going to get. Hey, coming off the back of 30 carries on a short week. Good luck betting on that again. That could be a tough spot. Travis Kelce, underwhelming performance on 6 targets in a spot where I thought he'd do okay. And now he's facing Dallas. Improved linebacking core. I don't know. I just don't know. My early lean is to say bounce back spot for the veteran. Interesting spot. He's been very slow in the first quarter of these games. He's had just a single catch in the last 4 games in the first quarter. Yikes. So maybe the under 9.5 first quarter receiving yards. I don't know. I'm moving on. Can't bet on these guys, these tertiary and whatever, these total role players and backup targets. I would say, you know, potentially looking at the under 12.5 yards receiving for Juju Smith-Schuster, a guy who's, you know, these guys are playing very few snaps out there for KC right now with Rashee Rice back under center. Or excuse me, out split out wide as I'm looking at Patrick Mahomes under center. You know, Mahomes slinging the football right now. I think a really slick way to just quickly going and doing business here would just grab, you know, Patrick Mahomes 250 plus. He's hit that in 8 straight games. It gives you a nice low line that you can use to finish out your entry. Are there better plays? Absolutely, probably. I think, you know, I'm you know, maybe pass attempts, pass completions has been really interesting at 24.5. We've cashed that out before. He's at the over in 6 of the last 8. You know, listen, with CeeDee Lamb and with, you know, George Pickens on the other side potentially running up the score, does Mahomes have to sling it more? Do they stop the run with Quinnen Williams in the middle? Does Hunt and Pacheco struggle? If so, I think he throws it a ton. And then here's the deal. Here's another way to look at this too. Back is against the wall. Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes. Who do you think is going to have the football? You know, I guess the pressure on their shoulders more. The running game or the passing game? It's going to be Patrick Mahomes, multiple MVP winner, multiple Super Bowl winner. I think he goes out there and he throws the ball. He at least drops back 40, 45 times every single game that remains close throughout the rest of the season. Remember, they're laying 3.5 on the road, short week, Thanksgiving in Cowboys in Dallas against a rising Cowboys squad. Yeah, I think it's a tough spot for the Chiefs. And I think if anything, the onus is put on Mahomes to make plays and win games. So the over 24.5 pass completions, very interesting. Final player I need to discuss is going to be Dak Prescott. I feel like I forgot about him somehow when I went through all of the players for the Dallas Cowboys. Let's quickly take a look at him. I don't think I have a ton to say. He's been a volatile I should say target for betting on other than his passing yards this year at 249.5. He's been pretty darn good. He's hit the over an 8 of 11. And very similar to the Chiefs side of things, I don't know if they're going to have success running the football against Kansas City. And I could see the pressure and the onus being on the passing game for the Dallas Cowboys here. So, give me Dak for 250 plus here. I think that's a fine option. If you want to alt it down to something else, by all means, do whatever makes you happy. It's your money. All right. Now, I said this one looked like the trap of the year, and here's my thought process behind that. So the Ravens are laying 6.5 at home. Heavy favorites, minus 327, but we're likely getting Joe Burrow back under center in this one. We're also getting Jamar Chase back after Spitgate and missing a game. And with Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow under center, there ain't no reason why they should be almost plus 300 money line odds. Now, I am essentially looking at this just because of the odds. I mean, the Bengals were, minus 120, minus 130 to start the season is making the playoffs. They were going to be jockeying for a divisional championship here, odds against the Ravens, who were top 3 Super Bowl odds to start the year, just behind the Buffalo Bills. They were ahead of the Chiefs. This is crazy. What a week this game, or I should say, what a week of football. What a Thursday of football. Honestly, even a Friday. This is just a great looking prime time that we have. 4 games all within a touchdown spread. I love it. And now here's the deal. There's no reason. The Bears on the road, 6.5 points. That should be 7.5. That should be 8.5, in my opinion, something like that. But the Bengals almost getting a full touchdown on the road. I mean, the spread is fine, but I think there's just so much value in the money line. I think it's worthy of a sprinkle at the very least. Now, the only thing that kind of stinks for Burrow, listen, he's missed most of the season. Of course, that stinks. But, man, he's not really had the greatest results against the Ravens over the years. But, man, oh, man, did we see 2 electric games last year, and Burrow threw for 392 and 428 and 9 total touchdowns. So, yeah, I think they come out just firing the football, just slinging the ever-living daylights out of this ball. And I think Burrow has a chance to go bonkers, man. I don't know what markets to look at. And I think it's honestly, listen, you could point at all of them and say they're all in play. But sheesh, this is a tough spot. I think for me, I probably just go bam. Joe Burrow, he's back, baby. And I think he finds ways to push the ball down the field. So maybe actually, the more I think about it, give me the longest completion. He's going to hook up with somebody deep down the field for 35 plus yards. Will he be efficient? Will he throw it enough? Will he complete enough? Will he throw an INT his first game back? Will he hit his passing yards? I don't know. Nobody knows. But what he could do with ease is just sling the dang football. He hit this over last year in 12 of 17 games. Of course, 2 70-yard completions against the Ravens last year in 2 different games as well. So, yeah, that's the play there. Now, we don't know what's going on with T. Higgins. He's got a clear concussion protocol here, I believe it is, on Tuesday. I don't think he will. Doesn't look like it. Oh, matter of fact, I just remembered. He got ruled out. He got ruled out for the Week 13 game. So it is just Jamar Chase. I do remember that now. Now, Chase went nuclear against the Ravens last season, 193 and 264 receiving yards. Oh, my goodness, my friends. That is absurd. And hey, if I'm betting on the long reception for Joe Burrow, give it to me for Jamar Chase. I think these two find a way to hook up down the field here. Chase Brown, I think he's going to end up being the forgotten man. And maybe I've got this game script all wrong. And I honestly could. There's no doubt about it. He's been going bonkers lately. There's no doubt about it. Does it look good? Sure, absolutely. Ravens rush defense actually been pretty good, though. They've let up a single rusher this year over 100 yards. And by the way, 67 or fewer rushing yards to every single running back since week 3. So Chase Brown at 59.5. I kind of like the under in this one. I think they're going to say, Chase, you got no shot here. It's a Joe Burrow week, and they're just going to force Burrow to sling the football and hopefully make a few mistakes in his first game back. Honestly, running backs have just struggled mightily. Breece Hall, 44 yards. Judkins, 59. Jordan Mason, 25. Achane, 67. The only one to hit the over. Swift, 45. Kyron Williams, 50. Marks for the Texans, 24. I mean, everyone under, other than Devon Achane. Give me lower there if we're picking anything. If you don't like unders, then I would look at the receiving yards at 18.5. Could be interesting. Again, I just think they're going to ask, Joe Burrow to sling the football. So I guess under that premise, let's go with the receiving yards. How about that? We'll stick with that correlation. Now, again, correlation can kill you, but it can also make you a lot of money, but it's just got to go well. Game script needs to go well for all of this to happen. Here's an interesting one here. So against the Bengals last season, 92 and 68 yards rushing. He struggled. He continues to struggle. Short week of football is interesting as well. Bengals have been gashed on the ground throughout this season. They've allowed 5 100-yard rushers. I mean, my first inclination last week was the over for rushing, and that did not hit. And I want to do it again, though. That's the problem. It's Derrick Henry. The opportunity has been there. He's getting a ton of carries. He's had 18-plus carries in 6 straight games. The rushing yards just been a little touch and go. Said 122, 71, 119, 75, 103, 64. So I guess the trend means he's hitting 100 yards again. I don't know how else to do it. Give me that, though. I'll take it. Lamar Jackson, 232.5 passing yards. Boy, oh boy, has that been looking terrible since his return. Matter of fact, on the season, man, has he just regressed as a passer? Lamar Jackson is under 232.5 in 7 of the 8 games. Now, the only thing he's got going for him here is that he's facing the Bengals. And every single quarterback other than Carson Wentz in week 3, when they lost 48-10, has hit the over on their passing yards. Aaron Rodgers did hit the under, but he got hurt early as well. So take that one away. And they'll make it worse. The Bengals, listen to the stat lines against the Bengals here. I always feel like it makes more impact when you see my face. 294 yards to Drake May, 280 to Caleb Williams, 244 to Justin Fields. That's worth like 500 yards. Aaron Rodgers, 249. Jordan Love, 259. Jared Goff, 258. Bo Nix, 326. 173 to Wentz in a massive blowout loss. Trevor Lawrence, 271. That's worth 400. Joe Flacco for Cleveland, 290. That's worth 500 as well. They have been getting absolutely shredded all year, the Bengals, against literally bad, bottom of the barrel quarterback spots all season. And then good quarterbacks have been popping off as well. So good luck figuring out what to do with Lamar Jackson. Under in 7 of 8 on the season, and then facing the Bengals where everyone slings the over. Here's the deal. Probably for me, I would include the over for a parlay. Otherwise, I like the under for straight, but I am not touching this with a 10-foot pole. I can't figure it out. Sometimes the best bet you make is the one you don't. I think if there's anything I would maybe look at would be Lamar and his legs getting healthy here. He's had 33 plus against the Bengals rushing yards in 6 straight games. Last year, we knew he averaged 54.5, hit the over in 16 of 19. This year, only over in 4 of 8, averaging 30 yards per game. He's struggled on the ground lately. 11 and 10 and 14 and 3 of the last 4. But hey, the pendulum does swing back, and we know in a tight, important, close game, he might run it a few more times. That is my favorite Lamar Jackson play, despite the fact that there's a lot of indicators telling me to take the over for the passing yards. I think an interesting way to get some exposure here to, some yardage props and a great matchup against the Bengals would be maybe to look at Zay Flowers rather than look at the passing yards for Lamar. So you could look at maybe the 65.5 for Zay. Mark Andrews at 41.5. It's just way too high, in my opinion. I think a lot of that, again, this is just matchup based, right? Like everyone's feasting against the Bengals. So this line is very high. He's had a great career against Cincinnati. He's hit the over in 7 of the last 8 games. But man, his snap rate is in the 60% or so whenever Isaiah Likely is active, and he is active. And he's been under in 8 straight games because of it. So that's my initial read there. It's just mark and under. But again, it's the Bengals. Everyone feasts against the Bengals. It's been bad. They've let up 3 different tight ends over 100 yards. So again, short list of plays, but man, I don't like it that much at all. Maybe the better option is just to take Isaiah Likely under instead of Mark Andrews if you're a little concerned about a guy with a high snap rate. Isaiah Likely, though, on the flip side, is playing 50% of the snaps. He's 57.8% on the season. He's averaging only 3 targets per game. That's the problem here. So I think for Isaiah Likely, he needs a really long catch here to be able to hit that over. Can he do it? Yeah, sure. It's Isaiah Likely. He's very athletic. But I do think I like this 26.5 to the under here. I don't really want to try to break down Gesicki and Noah Fant, so I'm just going to move on. We got one more game. I told you I'm covering them all here. Chicago and Philadelphia, my friends. We got football on Friday. How exciting is this? Bears are getting 6.5. They continue to find ways to keep games close. I think this one could be one of those tough, low scoring games, at which point, the Bears would cover at 6.5. I have no bet or a lean on this. I would just lean on the model. This is a really, really tough one. I'm also going to keep this relatively short because I've spent a ton of time breaking down the Thanksgiving slate specifically. Some of my angles that I would like for this game the most would actually be skipping over A.J. Brown, coming off a really nice game, and looking at Devonta Smith, who continues to be the forgotten man, but more consistent this year. I like him for 57.5 wide receiving yards, had 11 targets last week, not too shabby. Dallas Goedert, also the forgotten man, and boy, oh boy, has he kind of struggled lately on this line. But honestly, the matchup's pretty darn good. I do like his receiving yards a little bit this week. Looking at Jalen Hurts, of course, we got to take a look at him anytime the Eagles are playing. He's always an interesting anytime touchdown play more than anything for me. Really one of the only spots I like to target. But I will say this, there's going to be a market that you can target on most books. You don't often get it on pick 'em apps. It's going to be his interception line. Under a half of an interception, I think, is always an interesting play. He just doesn't throw them. He does not throw interceptions. He takes care of the football. Longest pass is always interesting for Jalen Hurts, especially this season, man. He's been slinging the football down the field. He's hit the over in 8 of 11 games at 35.5. But again, on sportsbooks, under 1.5 or under a half an interception for Jalen Hurts. Saquon Barkley, man, good luck with him. Oh my goodness, it's been so tough all year. What do you do for him? I think honestly, it's just time to just blindly take the unders, man. They're trap lines every time. They're low. We always want to take the over. And well, he continues to hit the under. The last running back to have 76 plus yards rushing was Austin Jonty back on September 28th against the Bears. Barkley's been under in 8 of 11, averaging just 62 yards per game. It's a short week. Maybe they lean on him more. I don't know. Even if they do, it's not like he hasn't had rush attempts. I mean, he's at 18 and 22 in 2 of the last 5 games, and in both those games had 44 and 60 yards rushing. The volume ain't the issue. It's the efficiency. He's averaging just 3.9 yards per carry. Maybe they're rushing long, under 16.5. I don't know. There's something here. I don't know what it is yet. I got some time. It's Tuesday morning. Dunze's line here seems kind of low, in my opinion. This, listen, I know the matchup isn't the greatest on earth, but it ain't bad. And he continues to get those downfield targets. He's actually had over 20.5 in 8 of 11 games. He missed one of them with a 20-yarder, another with 17. He gets a lot of downfield targets, and Philly can be beat down the field from time to time. It's not like they can't. I mean, Turpin, Lamb, and Pickens this past week had 40-plus yarders, all 3 of them. Guys get open down the field against Philly. This is not a new thing. So Odunze over 20.5, probably my favorite out of all of the Bears plays. All right, I spent a lot of time on these 4 games. I hope you enjoyed all of the information and insight. I hope I have some winners for you. I'm going to take my favorite 13. I counted them up. I'm going to provide a link for my VIPs so they can have, a pared down version of all of this information and insight. They'll have the betting models for these 4 games as well. And then an extra layer I'll give my officials as well. So my favorite 13 from this video, we'll have a quick pick link. I'll also post them on the Tails app. VIP link down below. Profit in 10 of 12 weeks for NFL. It's been very smooth, very consistent. Grab that link down below. Hopefully, I see you Thursday morning, 9 a.m. Eastern, for the super degenerate hour together from 9 to 10 a.m. All parlays, long plays, whatever we end up doing. It's going to be chaotic, and I can't wait. Thursday morning, 9 a.m. As always, thank you for watching, and let's get paid.